Today's guest
Thank-
speaker is David Houck. Pastor Houck is the founder of Sozo Kids. Thanks for joining us today. When you're ready, please take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, I would ask you how you're doing today, but today is a rough day for sure. Um, I have my memories as well. I was late to work that day and turned the TV on as I walked out to take my kids to school late, and I saw the planes going. So thank you for the tribute. Um, I don't know how many of you guys, it's hard. Zoom is definitely a different world for sure. I'm sitting on the side of the road because one, I had to go find signal out here in the forest. Sometimes there's not a lot of Wi-Fi or signal. So I'm sitting in the middle of the forest. I don't know if you guys can see out here, but I'm out here, and also I'm on my way to do my first funeral of the day. I have 3 of them today, and one tomorrow after church. So it's been kind of a somber time, and many of the funerals are COVID related. Which we're all aware. But I'll tell you, I don't know how much you guys know about us, but I'll just give you kind of a brief overview. I don't know if you guys want to do questions after, but my wife and I have been doing this for 28 years out here in the Ocala National Forest. And I did say 28 years. The next one should be better. We have 12 children. And the reason we have 12 children is probably because of some of the things I'll talk about here in a second. Life has changed completely, but for the people out here, it's in some ways the same. We had 4 children, and we ended up adopting 8 children just out of need. Now, all my children pretty much are grown, and now they're having children. We have 12 grandchildren. But we've been in the Ocala National Forest, and the forest is probably, it's the second oldest and second largest national forest set aside by Teddy Roosevelt in 1908. And it's a beautiful place. Don't get me wrong. It's got rivers and lakes and ponds and 430,000 acres of just land, fun land. And it's the only forest in the country that has private land woven inside of it. And that's been that way since the mid 1800s, and it just never could be undone. So we say the forest is like there's forest property and then there's private property put in together, almost like fingers intertwining. So a lot of people think everyone's squatting on public land, and that's not completely true. And not everyone out here is completely homeless, although some of the clients we deal with, it would probably be safer, sanitary, and better living conditions if they did live in a tent. We deal with poverty on a crazy basis. It's been this way for generations. Many of our clients live in what you could describe as old hunting camps. When I was a kid, I lived out here. We lived in, it's like an Airstream, but that would be cool if it was an Airstream. But it was like an old style 1952 pull behind that somebody pulled in to go camping and hunting in, and then built a porch on it, then built a porch on it, then built a porch on it, and kept closing it in, made it a labyrinth of just rooms with no windows. And when my dad got hurt when I was 8 years old, 40 something years ago, and he moved us here because the only place we could afford. And it was a crazy lifestyle change. I lived in the Bradenton, Sarasota area until I was about 8 years old. And then, we went from actually having stuff like food all the time and electric and air condition, those really cool things. And then we moved here on a canal, and my dad didn't like food stamps. So because he's a military vet, just real proud. So we either fished it, hunted it, caught it, grew it, or somebody gave it to our family from the local church. So we grew up, I hear poor stories, but I could tell you a poor story for sure. I've eaten just about everything, and I've been bitten by just about everything, including gators and rattlesnakes, but they've left their mark on me. But what we do in a nutshell is we help families living in rural poverty, they can't even see the poverty line. A lot of them have been in generational housing like that for their families up to 100 years out here. So 8th grade is the focal point of graduation, or it used to be in many neighborhoods before we started working in them. And what we do is we run food banks and many of our people live without electric or running water. But once again, let me stress this so the ranger doesn't get mad at me. Not everybody out here is absolutely destitute. Not everybody out here is homeless. and not everybody out here squats. All of those things happen for sure, but not everyone. You guys can hear me all right, right? I feel like I'm all alone out here in the woods.
We can hear you. You're doing great, Dave. Sounds good.
And Zoom is such a crazy way to do things these days. But we focus a lot on the kids. They're growing up this way because, I've been doing the food bank for 28 years. And over those years, we saw the first mom come in with, say, a 11-year-old. Of course, she had that kid at 14. And then the next kid comes in at 15 with a 2-year-old. And we started seeing third and fourth generation in a very short amount of time. And we said, man, this is crazy, because we started feeding, 30, 40, 50 families at a time a month back then. And pre-pandemic, we were at over 7,000 people a month in our food bank. And the goal was to figure out how to feed less people. Now, I know there's an easy way. You just quit giving them food, but that's not the good way. So we tried to figure out what would it look like to get less clients. So we started a mentor program. We started going into communities and finding old community centers, places where they would do, like a little community meeting, little block buildings. And we started rehabbing them and turning them into after school programs, free, of course, to them, not to us, but they're free. Put a little basketball court in, a playground of some kind if we could afford it. But to have tutors, mentors, volunteers come in and give the kids, a place to get tutored. And our first goal was all education. We thought, man, these kids can't read. They're not graduating. And we figured out a lot of what we were doing really is we needed to do preventative. We still do the mentoring. We do reading class. We do math class. We do science class. But it looks a little different because after a kid sits for 7 or 8 hours at a school, they don't want to come home and do math at an after school program. So we do Skittles math, or we make our own shaving cream in science, or things that are fun but get them thinking. And really what we're doing is we're keeping them off the street a few hours a day. And some people don't think of the forest as a street. It's just those dirt roads. Nothing can happen. But per capita, we are always fighting for number one in meth and preteen pregnancy and teen pregnancy. Preteen is 10, 11, and 12 years old. Several years ago, we had 6 11-year-olds pregnant at one time in one neighborhood. So, that's why we started fighting really hard about 15 years ago with the mentor program, saying we've got to do something different. Kids aren't graduating, not just high school, but even past the 8th grade, becoming parents, drug addicts. Just yesterday, I was at a tag office, and out here, I was going by a road, and I said, honey, I think I saw a prostitute at that dirt road. She goes, oh, you mean, she goes, why? I said, well, I saw her get dropped off, and it had all the signs. And then she goes, oh, I just saw her get picked up as I was driving by. And that's what we're facing out here again. That's the way you get money for drugs. That's the way you get money for housing and for kids. But what we've done with those mentor centers is we've created an opportunity for them not to be in that lifestyle, and also for them to know that there's a different future, whether that looks like at the very minimum, graduating high school without children, without having children, without getting pregnant, without committing crimes. I'm in the prison 3 days a week counseling parents of these kids, getting them ready to come out to the job force, because they're coming back out. They're coming back out, and they're going to either be the same or different. But getting them past the 8th grade, getting them through high school, getting them into either college, university, or vocational school. Out of the 8 sons that I've adopted, all but 2 went to university and graduated, and 2 of them went to vocation. I have 3 nurse sons. I have some crazy, and they're all from out here, and all from parents. I've buried most of their parents because of drug use. The Mentor Center offers them just kind of a way out. At the same time, we do the practical stuff. We feed them. We give them new shoes. We give them backpacks. We give them school supplies and shampoo. I always joke and say we give them all the religious cool things like air condition, pest control, and flushing toilets, which many of you, if you have internet right now at your house, I see some pictures. I'm sure when you turn the electric on, lights come on and toilets flush. A lot of these kids go home and none of that happens for them. And there's nothing the government really can do. It's just kind of out of sight, out of mind. But through the program, we've had tons and tons of kids graduating. And this year, between now and the next probably 5 years, we're going to really see the biggest crop of graduations, college enrollment, vocational enrollment. We also operate our own vocational training. The food bank is fine. That does what it does. During pandemic's height, we were feeding over 15,000 people a month. Now that things have kind of come to a certain standard where a lot of our people are back to work and actually better employed than they have been at a higher rate. We're able to go in and do budgeting, because not all of this is about poverty. A lot of it is about poverty mindset. It's kind of like if one of my people out here won the lottery, they'd probably be broke in about a year and still have nothing. It's a mindset. They've never been trained. We're having a lot less babies. I hope this joke, I say popsicles prevent pregnancy. And people say, how in the world does a popsicle prevent pregnancy? Well, if they're at the mentor center after school each day, doing homework and eating popsicles, then they don't have time to get pregnant. And the parents that are working now, they're not home, so the kids have more time at home. And during pandemic was a rough turnaround for us, because we had to close the mentor centers, which will open again in 2 weeks. Finally, they look different for sure, but at the same time, they're opening, giving the kids a chance. We just did 6 weeks of summer camp. We finished that right before school. We have a summer camp out here where we base out of. Has its own lake. It's a clear water lake. The kids come. We do generally, not all at one time. We do 3-day camps so we can spread the kids out, especially now with COVID and different things. We do about 1,000 kids a summer at camp in 3-day shots. It would tell you, if I look tired, I'm tired. Summer was tough. We're still loading trucks of food. And the vocation is I run a lot of the vocation, which is landscape. And it's hot. It's hot. But we train young men and women to do landscape, lawn work. We do we do pressure washing. We also do a lot of catering. We're trying to get them in businesses that they can operate without a college degree and without a huge amount of finance. Like I said, I'm getting ready to go I have 3 funerals today, one at 11, one at 1, and one at 2 p.m. And I have one tomorrow at 1 p.m. Some of those are COVID and some of them are overdose. I've done more overdose funerals than any pastor probably in 20 states. In my career, I've done over 700 funerals. And before COVID is over, I'll have 800. And it's not the title I wanted. But let me give you this before. I know some of you may have some questions in a minute, but Christmas is coming up. We do about 2,500 students for Christmas. And we do Christmas like Mama would have done Christmas, with the ham. We give the practical, the bait. We do the ham. We do the food. We do blankets and pajamas and shoes and the necessities and hygiene. But we also get some toys in there, some bicycles, some good stuff to make it fun and let them know that somebody cares about them. This year, we've been able to provide several cars. No, we didn't buy them. We don't got that kind of money. But generous donors have given their cars to us for graduates of high school. And this year, we've had a better crop of high schoolers. We were able to, through the Friends of Sozo club there in the Villages, we were able to do 3 scholarships this year for school. And we do practical scholarships, which means we cover things that their grants aren't covering in a scholarship. So the laptop or the software, the things it takes to make a real college student happen. Their parents don't do that here. One of the kids went into vocation as an apprentice construction. He was able to get his boots, his hard hat, all the tools, the tool belt. I mean, everything a construction guy needs for the first day. Incredible thing for this young man. He's an honor student, graduated top of his class, but even as a construction guy, he chose not to go to college. But as a construction guy, within the first 2 years, he'll be making an incredible living with his uncle's company, and he'll be out of the forest cycle. So that's some of the things we do. What was I going to say? I'm trying to think. Zoom is such a strange thing. I can't see the reaction on your faces, but I know there will be questions. We're hitting Christmas soon. But the biggest thing is, I know you guys relate some scripture and different things. And our biggest thing is to give these kids hope for the future. Let them know they're not alone. Let them know that they can do something. They reach out to us when their parents are, out of their mind on drugs and they're buying drugs instead of food. and really there's not a lot of help for us in the way people have to be seen doing a crime to get them out, or kids don't get taken like they used to out of houses, and it's not illegal not to have electric. But there is food available. Our team can give them food, shoes. I just delivered a ton of lice shampoo to the elementary school. That's one thing some parents don't afford or won't afford. And my goal is to make sure that in 5-10 years, the kids that are in our elementary and middle school programs, that they've graduated. They're not prostitutes. They're not drug addicts. They're not in prison in my program in prison. And they're just productive citizens, paying taxes, helping out, volunteering, and keeping their kids. So a kid gives back to us by just doing the right thing and making it. Whether they graduate college or not, it's totally up to them. But we're going to be there to hold their hand if we can. If that means a laptop, shoes, finding a car somehow. Because the closest college is 30 miles from us. It's a cheap college, but it's still 30 miles. And I think we've done a great job. We have several university graduates now from our program, UF, USF, UCF. We have a couple of kids in pre-med right now and pre-law. So like I said, the next 5 years, it's going to be incredible what we hear. We get emails from kids at the University of Florida saying, hey, I don't know if you remember me from 10 years ago when I was in middle school, but I just graduated the University of Florida. And the next question someone will say is, well, Pastor Dave, did they give you money? That's not the point. The point is the kid is never going to need food stamps. The kid is never going to need welfare. The kid is not going to be a drug addict. Their kids are not going to need those things. And they've escaped. They made it. I could go on for hours. I don't want to do that to you. But if you have some questions, I'd love to field them the best I can. I can answer the first one. No, the government doesn't do a ton here, and they can't. But we have. But you guys have any questions?
There was one here, Pastor. It said, are there grants available to you?
Not very often. We get a little bit of FEMA money when it moves. And FEMA does like a food program, but honestly, they're usually running 2 or 3 years behind at the moment. The only grants we get at the moment are from clubs that say, hey, we'd like to help put in a playground, or we'd like to help fund food for the after school program. One of the biggest ones that help us out now recently is Friends of Sozo. They're just a club that's just dedicated to helping out. But honestly, if you ask me what my stream of income is, I have no idea. It comes. I just don't know where. So I have to step back and say, God, you do your thing. And I say I live by faith, but honestly, faith is what I named my mailbox. So I go see Faith every afternoon to see what she's providing. And somehow God just does his thing. And I figure as long as we keep working, and we do whatever God tells us to do, we've been blessed. We're not floating and, we're not throwing eyeballs in money or anything. In fact, just a week ago, we had $16 in the bank. I don't know if that makes you scared, but that made me a little scared. But the next day, a donor sent a little check in and cleaned some stuff up. And I have gas in my truck today to go do, funerals for these families. So we may not be always overabundant, but we never drowned. And I just openly and publicly just say thank God for that, for sure.
Pastor Dave,
go ahead.
Oh yeah, I've got a couple of questions actually.
Yep.
One, I was just wondering if you were actively looking for volunteers, for mentors, or
Yes.
the food bank. And the other question is, I didn't hear you say anything about mental health services. I just wondered if people that might need that have access to that.
Yeah, out here, it is such a strange place. People think because it's federal land, you can't do certain things. But like I said, not all of it is federal. The camp I have is federal lease, but everything else is privately owned in the neighborhoods. We do have it available at our food bank off and on, but I tell you, most people won't avail themselves to it. Honestly, it's a stigma out here. You're too tough for it. I'm not weak. They will take advantage of, like, we have eyes and ears coming up. We'll do those checks. Before COVID, we had a dental bus, but COVID shut that bus. It's just sitting because it's such a close quarter, nobody's willing to do anything with it. So it's just sitting and just rusting away. But yeah, mental health services, it's not that it's not available. It's that people won't take it most of the time, if that makes sense.
Okay. And then the other question was the volunteers. Are you actively looking for?
Mentor Center for sure. We have one on, if you're familiar with Highway 42, that cuts right in there to the base of like Summerfield area. We have one there. That's the closest one to the Villages area. We do use volunteers. Absolutely. No one has to be a teacher. They do have to pass a background check. The Lady Lake Police Department has our number there, and they run, I think it's like $30, and you go in, have your fingerprints run to make sure, because we are dealing with children, and we have something called I hate this word, but it's coined molestation insurance because it's a different day and time, and there are a lot of people out there seeking to do harm to children. So according to our insurance, we have to background everybody in a level 2 FBI background for pedophilia charges, which is good for the children. If you're interested in that, you can, my email is david.saltlife@gmail.com, or you can go on the website, sozokids.org, and just hit contact, and it'll go to my phone. We'd love to have, the food bank is different. The food bank has a crew that's been there for a very long time. And now we do everything different, where people don't even get out of their car. They just pull up, we get their name, we bring the food to their car. It's a very sanitized world. So we don't have as much human contact with them. So we don't need as much help there as we do mentor centers. We have 2 of them running full on, starting, I want to say just in the last week of September here coming up. We're finishing it up. One of our mentor centers was broke into while we weren't there. It's several miles to the South Forest. I actually found a 4-wheeler inside my building 2 days ago. Somebody stole it and put it in my building. I thought, wow, I got a new 4-wheeler, but I knew it was stolen. And then I looked in my office, and there was a guy living in my office. So it's a strange place, not a violent, just strange. But it is what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead, Al.
You had mentioned the Friends of Sozo. Sound like that's a club here in the Villages?
Yes, sir.
And is it better for you and your mission and so on for us to contribute through that kind of club, or to go to you directly through, say, your website or something like that?
It would be better for our website, because Sozo Kids Club is pretty much dedicated to the scholarship end.
Okay.
If you're interested in a scholarship, they do great things, but they're more focused on, say, the scholarship and that type for the mentor. For us, everyday operating funds are important. Like, we pick up all these kids at the bus stop, and it takes this really crazy thing called fuel, and fuel just doesn't seem to get any cheaper. And we run a little fleet of vans, and people don't look at that other side. A lot of people love to give, toys at Christmas. They love to give toilet paper or tampons or diapers. Those are great things, even the food. But at the same time, to be able to move any of that stuff, to be able to have the centers running, it takes logistics, which insurance, gas, tire rod ends, for vans. We do about 60 miles plus a day on each van on straight dirt roads that do not get graded. So no matter how slow we go, it's a lot of fun at the shop. We do have in-house mechanics, so we're pretty good stewards of our money. We have a less than pretty much around a 1% admin because none of us get paid here. Any of the paid staff are what's called U.S. missionaries with the Assemblies of God. That's what I am. I'm a U.S. missionary. So my paycheck does not come from Sozo at all. It comes from the Assemblies of God International Headquarters. I'm basically a missionary that will come to your church and say, hey, would you guys support me and my wife, please? And that's how I get to have, my own socks and stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Shirley.
Thank you for all this good information. Where do the people that live there get health care?
If they honestly, the emergency room is the number one healthcare. We do have those events where we bring them out, but out here we do have a healthcare provider, but their insurance also has to match it if they have insurance. And here's one interesting that everything out here is not about not being able to qualify for services. It's about getting qualified. So to say that signing up for food stamps sometimes, or having Wi-Fi, or going to the right places, like kids with dental, most of them qualify for that. But getting their parents to go and do the actual paperwork, some of that is because of literacy, some of it's because of laziness, some of it's because of drug activity, some of it's because of ignorance and misinformation. Like when parents tell me my kid can't go to college, there's no money for college and it won't happen. And I'm thinking, man, the poorer you are, the more money there is for college. But there is another side to that. That's truth. There's no car to get to college. There's no gas to get to college, no insurance. And something as simple as the boys, I adopted 2 boys at 16 years old. And when I took them off to college, there was the first day entrance fee that wasn't covered, the laptop, the ramen noodles, the simple things that parents provide. So it goes beyond these people. So they put their kids to work and they don't finish high school.
Wow.
It's just a whole, it's more like when my dad graduated. My dad quit 8th grade to work for his family, or with his family to help provide. It's crazy. Some things have not changed out here in 50, 60 years.
Go ahead, Andy.
All right. What I'm going to do is there are some questions in the chat window, so I will ask those questions for people. D. Melvin asked, "What can we do that will have the most positive impact?"
But it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about volunteering or donating, volunteering is a huge one. Many people don't volunteer because they think they're not teachers. But like I said earlier, volunteering at a mentor center is not always about teaching. In fact, most people who volunteer there don't teach. The most important part, if I was in the room right now and I asked all of you to raise your hand, anyone who's been out of state, anyone who's been on a cruise, anyone who's gone to eat somewhere besides McDonald's, believe it or not, that's your greatest gift to the kids is life experience. When people come in and say, I got this picture of a panda in China, the kid thinks they're talking to a superhero. I asked kids one time, hey, we're gonna go to Tennessee on a missions trip. I want to take some of you teenagers with me to work for another community. And kids literally would say, well, I've never been out of the country. I said, well, Tennessee is kind of foreign, but it's not out of the country. So yeah, mentoring is a huge one. Getting kids to understand there's a misconception. Let me answer this one for some of you. All the kids here, most people here think anyone who lives anywhere near the villages or in the villages is insanely rich, which has some truth compared to the way they live. But what they need to understand, and what you guys help us understand, is that most of you didn't go to prison. Most of you didn't become prostitutes. Most of you didn't, get in trouble, get pregnant early, or whatever it looks like. But what you did is you stayed out of trouble, went to school, got a job, and worked that job for a certain period, saved money, built a retirement. And now that you've retired, you've taken that retirement and that criminal-free background, and you've come and you've bought a home in a decent neighborhood. To you, you would never say, oh, I'm not rich. But for these kids to go to McDonald's sometimes is pretty much a big thing. So my volunteers are huge. The other one is finances to help us keep the vans floating, keep the gas in them, keep the snacks rolling, help us, throughout the year with financial products, with shoes and underwear and deodorant, simple things that you don't think about every day in poverty, but they are real. I got beat up more times over my shoes in school than anything else. And it's usually because I threw the first punch after people made fun of me. But I'm better now. But when I was a kid, man, it was just heartbreaking to be made fun of every day because my shoes were flapping. But, my dad was crippled and he had no money. It is what it is.
So if people want to volunteer or if they want to donate money, is the best way to do that through the website?
Yes, sir. A lot of people will get a hold of us and set it up if they want to do it. We do a child sponsorship program called the Heroes. And what that does, a lot of people do $25 a month. That helps us tag a kid to that and make sure that they stay with shoes and the program, get to go on certain trips and Christmas. And the $25 a month doesn't pay for all of that, but it definitely helps us curb the cost of what we're spending for those kids to make sure, like yesterday, our program hasn't started, but I went to the bus stop just to check and see how many kids were actually back on the buses and going to school. And for the most part, most of our neighborhoods are all back to school, but they all walked back into Forest Lake Park in this one neighborhood, and it was pouring rain yesterday. Kids were running everywhere, going crazy. And there's about 50 kids at that bus stop, 50. And our vans weren't there to pick them up. So what a benefit it is just to have the vans there to pick them up and take them back to the Mentor Center and get them something warm to eat or cold to drink, a toilet that flushes. And we just redid one of the Mentor Centers. It's absolutely incredible in there. What a great safe place, and no roaches. No roaches. That's their big thing, because sometimes the kids have roaches crawl out of them. And I know it doesn't seem appealing if you want to volunteer, but a few hours with a kid can change their life, honestly. And volunteers don't have to be there every day. They can come once a week, a couple times a month. It's safe. All of our staff has been vaccinated. Many of the kids have been vaccinated. So programs look a little different, but yeah, that's the best. The website is probably best. And you can always push contact and it'll go right to me.
All right, Mike, we've got a couple more questions on the chat. Should I keep going? Mike, you're on mute.
Okay, we're kind of running over, so thank you, Pastor, for joining us today. We appreciate it. For everyone on the call, there's a link to donate to Sozo Kids on the Village's Democratic website. And let me see, it's been posted, the website has been posted in the chat window.
Thank you, guys. Feel free to go to the website, contact me anytime. I apologize, I have to go to a funeral right now. But you guys, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you, Pastor David. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye now.